Out in the lonely stretches of neutral space, far from the busy trade routes and well-worn patrol corridors of the Galactic Union, a small, sleek vessel glided silently against the backdrop of stars. It was a Varnak recon ship, model XZ-41, equipped with stealth shielding, long-range sensors, and the latest in quantum scanning arrays. It was designed not for war, but for observation, research, and quiet withdrawal. The Varnak were not a warlike species. They prided themselves on intelligence, caution, and survival. That's why, when the ship's passive sensors picked up an anomaly, a heat signature inconsistent with any known design pattern, the three Varnak aboard paused in their quiet studies. Unregistered vessel detected. Sector 9 Beta, class unknown, configuration unmatched in Union database. The ship's AI, soft and melodic, reported. Commander Zhella swiveled in her pod chair, her long, segmented digits tapping against the console. Project Visual, Magnify, on. The screen bloomed an image of something wrong, brutal. Unlike the smooth, elegant curves of most interstellar ships, this one was jagged, all hard angles and dark, burnished metal. The outer hull was reinforced with layers of thick plating. Massive cannons protruded from turrets. Vents glowed ominously with residual heat. "It looks ancient," whispered First Observer Thrall. "No aesthetic symmetry, no gravitational, dampening sails. Primitive." Zhella disagreed. "Not primitive, purposeful." Indeed, the design radiated a single-minded focus. It wasn't made for diplomacy. It wasn't even made for exploration. It was made for war. They began their analysis with passive scans, low energy, unnoticeable. The first thing they noticed was the metal. The hull was composed almost entirely of dense, high-gravity materials: tungsten, depleted uranium, titanium carbide alloys. No known species used these substances in spacefaring ships. Too heavy, too inefficient. But this ship, it embraced mass like a challenge. It's as if they want it to be as indestructible as possible, Thrall said, adjusting the energy spectrum. That much mass, it would survive ramming a moon. Their second discovery was even more disturbing. Power readings. The ship's core output was higher than anything they'd seen outside of military dreadnoughts, and even then, only during full charge. The unknown vessel had not one but three reactors, each of a different design. One looked like a fusion drive, the second an old-style fission array, and the third, unclassifiable. Some kind of hybrid antimatter configuration, rigged with what looked like triple fail-safes. Redundant power systems. They expect to take damage and keep fighting, Zhella murmured. But the ship is active. Who builds a ship like this and sends it to drift in neutral space alone? Thrall asked. Zhella tapped her claw lightly on her console. Begin a directed deep scan. I want to know more. Their vessel lowered its stealth profile slightly to emit a narrow-band quantum probe, a deeper look into the unknown warship's structure. The scan revealed layer after layer of strange designs, endless corridors too narrow for comfort, internal defense turrets, sealed emergency bulkheads reinforced with explosive locks. There were dozens of weapons, some mounted, some concealed. It looked like every square meter of the ship had been weaponized. No entertainment modules, no garden spheres, no recreation zones, the ship's AI noted. Just barracks and armories, added Thrall. Zhella looked deeper, narrowing in on the structural layout. Even the escape pods had missile racks. The hangars didn't contain sleek shuttles but armored drop pods, some of them still bearing scorch marks from previous entries. The ship wasn't a home. It was a fortress. Species type? Zhella asked the AI. The computer paused, unable to determine. Biological traces consistent with oxygen breathing, carbon-based bipeds. Humanoid, possibly. No matches in current galactic database. Vessel markings identified. Language unknown. Origin unknown. Closest match, Earth Standard Alphanumerics. Earth? Jella's brow ridges furrowed. That's on the pre-contact list, pre-warp civilization, not spacefaring. They are now, Thrall said grimly. Commander, the AI interjected, its tone suddenly sharp. Warning, our probe has been detected. The unknown vessel is powering up. Jella froze. What? That shouldn't be possible. The scan was passive. The ship has adjusted trajectory. It is turning toward us. On the view screen, the angular monstrosity that had floated like a sleeping predator was now waking up. Engine plumes lit up. Heat signatures surged. Its prow rotated slowly, deliberately in their direction. Shields up. Full stealth protocols. Now, Jella barked. But it was too late. Their ship began to shudder. Not from an attack, nothing had fired. But their sensors, their communications, even their internal lights began to flicker. Something's disrupting our systems, cried Thrall. Electromagnetic interference, like a directed EMP, but precise. It's targeting our scanners. We're being jammed, the AI confirmed. Source unknown vessel. A low pulsing hum filled the cabin, a pressure in the air like static before a lightning strike. And then, for just a moment, a line of text appeared on every screen in their vessel. It wasn't Varnak script, but the ship's AI translated. Instantly, we see you, Thrall recoiled. They're talking to us. No. They're warning us, Jella replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The warship didn't fire. It didn't chase. It merely held position as if to say, this far. No further, and that was enough. Jella snapped her claws. Disengage scan. Plot immediate course away from the vessel. Full burn. As they veered off and retreated back toward safer space, the warship remained stationary, watching. Like a lion, unbothered by the presence of smaller animals, letting them flee while it conserved its strength. Silence filled the cabin. After a long pause, Jella spoke. Log everything. Classify this vessel as an Omega-level threat. Species. Unknown. Intent. Hostile by design, but not by action. Recommendation. Full council alert. Thrall looked back one last time at the distant dot on the screen. Who builds a ship like that? He asked again. Jella responded, her voice colder now. Someone who's used to surviving hell and plans to bring it with them. The structural design of the vessel was unlike anything the Varnak had ever recorded. It was as if a mad engineer, unconcerned with beauty, efficiency, or harmony, had instead asked one question. How can I build a ship that can survive anything? The ship's internal composition showed armor layered in triple-tiered plates. The outermost shell was an ultra-dense tungsten carbide alloy, difficult to penetrate even with Union-grade rail cannons. Beneath that was an active-reactive armor system, a patchwork of micro-explosives designed to detonate toward incoming projectiles, neutralizing their momentum. And beneath that, a regenerative mesh, carbon nanostructures laced with nanobots, capable of reweaving structural integrity over time. It was a ship designed to bleed, but never die. There are no energy-saving redundancies, Thrall observed. Everything is overbuilt, over-reinforced. They sacrificed speed, elegance, even mobility, for sheer resilience. Jella narrowed her eyes at the 3D render on her screen. This isn't a ship, it's a bunker, a flying siege engine. The warship's armaments dwarfed anything in the Varnak inventory. The sensor suite had mapped at least 16 primary weapon systems, with backup redundancies in every quadrant. Some they could identify: kinetic railguns, running the length of the ship's spine, capable of firing slugs at relativistic speeds. Missile bays packed with warheads of unknown payload, some nuclear, some likely antimatter. Plasma throwers mounted on turret rings, clearly for close combat. But there were others, far more disturbing. Directed energy weapons that appeared to have adaptive targeting matrices, able to retune their wavelength on the fly. EMP disruptors capable of frying systems without damaging hulls, ideal for disabling and boarding. And most terrifying of all, an internal file the AI identified with 92% probability as a planetary-scale kinetic bombardment protocol. It was nicknamed in human script, Rods from God. This isn't just a ship meant to win battles, Thrall whispered. It's built to end wars. Jella nodded grimly. Or civilizations. The scan delved deeper into the internal layout, and it got worse. Most ships balanced combat capability with basic comfort, living quarters, recreation areas, biodomes for psychological health. There was none of that here. The crew's quarters were tight, barely larger than coffins, dozens of bunks stacked vertically, each embedded with locking straps, nutrient injectors, and stimulant feeds. The place looked more like a high-security prison than a home. Training facilities were expansive, but brutal. Firing ranges, zero-G combat chambers, and sealed sparring rooms where soldiers practiced close-quarters combat in live simulations. And then came the disturbing part. Every crew member wore full-body exosuits, even when off-duty. Not ceremonial, armor, not command uniforms. These were function-first, power-assisted suits designed for combat, pressure resistance, and survival in vacuum. Scars on the walls and floor suggested live fire training. Even in sleep, the human crew prepared for war. Are they always ready to fight? Thrall asked. Jella didn't answer. She was staring at the medical bay, or rather, what passed for one. Instead of typical region tanks and nanomenders, the medical section of the warship was filled with field surgery units, emergency amputation rigs, and something called Combat Trauma Priority Suite Alpha. The procedures listed were horrifying. Auto tourniquets, bone reinforcements, blood recycling systems. It wasn't about healing. It was about keeping soldiers alive long enough to keep fighting. And then they found the protocols. The Varnak AI, though cautious, decrypted partial segments from the warship's central core. Among standard military operations and security logs were emergency action files, each tagged with a grim title. Some of them were clearly self-destruct mechanisms. Others were contingency strike orders, but a few stood out. Scorched Earth Alpha. Atmospheric denial. Planetary glassing. Initiate? Glassing? Thrall asked, confused. The AI hesitated. Term originates from human linguistic roots. Refers to the act of using high-yield orbital bombardment to melt a planet's surface into glass. Confirmed in historical data as theoretical, but plausible, human weapon tactic. Jella's hands trembled on her console. They don't just fight wars, she said. They plan for apocalypse. It was only now that they noticed the name, engraved in reinforced plating along the side of the hull. The letters were carved, not for flair but for permanence, like a tombstone. Before the Varnak could sever all connections, their sensors lit up again, not from another attack, but from a broadcast, a direct feed, not language this time. Visuals. The screen on the Varnak ship flickered with human footage, grainy, brutal, and raw. Scenes of trench warfare from a place called Earth. Atomic. Explosions with giant mushroom clouds rising into the sky. Dogfights, space battles, tanks rolling across deserts. Hand-to-hand combat in muddy fields. Footage from Earth's own history. Centuries of carnage, brutality, and survival. The final image was Earth glowing blue and green in the darkness of space. Then, in crisp translated script, "This is peace for us. Imagine what war looks like." Jella gave the order immediately. Full retreat. Mask our drive signature. Leave this system behind. The USS Retribution didn't pursue. It remained still, a lone sentinel in deep space, waiting. As the Varnak ship slipped into faster-than-light travel, the crew sat in stunned silence. Thrall broke it first. "Commander, what do we tell the Council?" Jella looked him dead in the eyes. "Tell them this. We have not discovered a threat. We have discovered a species built from war. We should not fear what they might do to us. We should fear what they've already done to themselves to become like this." The Varnak recon vessel had jumped to safety. Or so they thought. In the silence of deep space long after they had cleared the system, something unexpected happened. A transmission. It arrived not through normal channels but via a focused quantum packet, one that bypassed encryption, ignored firewalls, and spoke directly to their ship's core. The warship had followed them, not physically but intellectually. It had left a parting gift. The Varnak crew hesitated. Commander Zhella considered erasing the data outright. But her curiosity now, laced with fear, got the better of her. "Open it," she ordered. The transmission wasn't words, not at first. It was images, moving visuals, encoded with precision. More footage, more human history, more raw brutality. A city skyline glowing with fire as bombs fell from above. Soldiers dragging wounded comrades through blood-soaked mud. Humans locked in close-quarters combat, barehanded, refusing to die. The footage changed, showing human resilience. A firefighter pulling children from wreckage, a doctor performing surgery in a collapsing building, a lone human surrounded by enemies refusing to surrender. The final scene was Earth again, serene, beautiful, alive. Then a voice, emotionless but clear, translated through the ship's systems. "You scanned our vessel. You saw what we built. You think us monsters. We are not. We are survivors." There was a pause. The screen turned dark. One last message scrolled across in stark white lettering. "We built that ship not to conquer the stars, but to make sure no one else ever tries to conquer us." This was a warning, not a threat. "Remember what you saw. We are humanity. We don't start wars. We finish them." Transmission ended. Silence returned. Commander Zhella stared at the blank screen for a long time. No one on the bridge spoke. Finally, she stood. "Prepare a priority relay to the Galactic Council. No encryption. Let all species hear it." "Are you sure?" Thrall asked. She nodded. "The galaxy must understand what we've found. Not just a warship. Not just a new species." She turned toward the stars. "We've found the line. The one no one should ever cross."